I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Let the record reflect that all board members are present and accounted for. Board chair's comments. The only comment I have is we really worked well together, getting us a new superintendent. Let's just keep it going and keep on working together. And if as a chairman, you need me to recognize you, just gotta make more noise or more motion, because sometimes I don't see it. So with that, we're looking for approval of agenda.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
I do have one amendment,
Okay,
and that was a late resignation from Shelley Grabat,
No,
a retirement, that's right.
we're gonna wait for the next one.
Oh, okay, I did it done tonight.
all right. So it's been moved and been seconded, moved by Director Hofstad and seconded by Director Bauman to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none. Superintendent, call the roll.
Okay. Director Bauman,
Aye.
Director Garrett, perfect, aye. Director Hackett,
Aye.
Director Husted,
Aye.
Director Lang,
Aye.
Director Rory.
Aye.
Let the record reflect. The agenda is approved by a vote of 6-0-0. All right, appreciation, recognition, and presentations.
Well, I will go first with it when those two are arguing with each other. I would like to recognize our transportation director. If anyone realized what Gayleen Kentucky has undergone this past school year, I believe she's drawing right now. She's driving right now. Otherwise, I think she'd be with us. But to be so flexible, to be able to change the schedule in a drop of a heartbeat, to be forward-looking, to add on technology, to allowing almost anybody with a license to drive a bus to be able to drive a route course without training for days is remarkable. She's also gone out and recruited other individuals to join our bus company here within the school district. So for all those wonderful reasons, and we passed again, all our buses, even with the oldest, the second oldest, the third oldest buses. She's done an outstanding job. And for those reasons, I'm recognizing Gayleen Kentucky.
All right. Somebody else want to?
Go next. Am I in a okay place? Or do you need me to move?
You're not on camera.
Okay, I don't need.
It might have to be louder, Phil. That's all I can.
Okay, I want to recognize our 5th grade student, Will Roush, who's in Mrs. Call's classroom. And Will won the Royalton School Spelling Bee, which was good achievement, being a 5th grader in 5th through 8th grade in the spelling bee. And then he went on to place 4th in the regional spelling bee. So that's good.
Same grade
That's
then.
pretty good stuff. And Will and his family or his mom and dad should be joining us on Zoom. So we have Will and his mom Stacy and his dad Dave. So if there's anything you care to say or comment, we mostly wanted to recognize you, but certainly want to hear from you. And I could give you a few trick words, but I'm sure you'd be able to handle it. Are they there?
Yeah, we're here. Just say thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He knows a lot of words, but doesn't have much to say right now.
Thank you very much for the recognition.
Wonderful
He
accomplishment.
had a lot of fun, and thank you to Miss Bishop too for helping with all of that.
Well, thank you, Will, for representing Railton School.
You're welcome. He had fun.
Yeah. Okay. So do you have anything else?
That's
No?
all.
All right.
I have a short video presentation. Let the video speak for me tonight. This is for our students of excellence that, before you hit play, one of our former students, Mitch McCallson, is the video production engineer at Sourcewell. And so he played football for me when he was in high school, and he's been working at Sourcewell, and they have really advanced in those areas with their outreach. And so it's fun. Mitch came to Royalton to videotape me, which is something that I don't particularly enjoy. But the video they did is very well done. And so this is a 2-minute and 45-second clip that is about the students of excellence. We had 2 of them, Samantha Goodscow and Aiden Olson. And so this is just the Royalton portion, and with a little bit of intro of what the students of excellence is all about.
You know, if this doesn't work, Joel, you need to get up front and start to dance.
Yeah, I love that.
To me, a student of character is something that goes above and beyond what's expected from an ordinary student.
It's just perseverance. This has been a good year for seeing that with a lot of students.
That go the extra mile type kid, and it doesn't matter if they got a pat on the back or not, it's just the right thing to do. I think it's important to celebrate these students because they don't always get that recognition.
Someone I could probably trust with the holding keys to my front door to my house.
Students of character just make staff and other students feel proud, and they may not even realize how much of a difference they're making at our school.
Step up. Your turn to be recognized, appreciated.
Hi, my name is Joel Swenson. I'm the principal of Royalton High School, and I'm excited to introduce our award winner for Royalton High School, Samantha Getsko. Sam has been a strong contributor to our arts program at RHS. She's been involved in plays, musical, and is a strong presence in our art program. She's currently completing our newest wall mural in our art hallway. Sam has strong family support and has developed a strong and close network of friends that have helped her find her niche and become a leader. She has a strong sense of right and wrong and isn't afraid to stand up for what is right. I'm also excited to introduce Aiden Olson as a Royalton High School student of excellence. Aiden is an excellent student and role model for students at Royalton High School. He is a very quiet individual, but his actions, whether it be in the classroom or the wrestling mat, speak louder than his words. He works very hard to do the best he can at whatever he does. Aiden has a bright future in front of him, and I'm excited to see the path he chooses. Congratulations to both Sam and Aiden on being awarded as students of excellence.
Thank you again to everyone who helped make this event a success, from our generous donors to the 45 incredible students recognized this evening, and the educators who nominated them. Never stop learning or leading, and never be afraid to shine your light brightly. Thank you all, and have a great evening.
we have the Student of Excellence Banquet. It's typically done this time of year, and we have it at Madden's Resort or Grandview Lodge. It's been at both places. They usually bring us up there and have a fancy dinner and a keynote speaker, and then they award the students, and it's really a fun night. And they weren't able to do it this year. They did it virtually, and this was a new rollout for them. So it came out live at 5:30 last week and 5:30 Wednesday night, and then they sent us these little snippet portions of just our school. So congratulations to Sam and Aiden. They are excellent role models and examples for Royalton High School.
Anything else? All right, does anybody else have any presentations? All right, with that, we're gonna move on to reports and news. Board committee report. Policy committee didn't meet yet.
We've got Mary's hand up.
Mary, yes.
We met with Midstate. They have quite a few resignations right now, but they're filling those positions quickly. And so I'm very happy to hear that. Simone is doing a great job with Midstate and with keeping our children happy. However, we did have a loss. One of our students passed away. And so, you know, that needs to be recognized. She was a young Barkowitz girl, and God bless her and her family. That's all I have.
Any other reports?
Non-union negotiations, we've met and finalized some contracts, so those are here to be approved tonight.
You see that? Good work, committee. Any other committee reports? About that, superintendent report?
Yeah, first I want to start out where we are with COVID, because that's one of the things everyone, always wonders. For example, we didn't close down when the numbers got real high 2 weeks ago. At the same time, we're very cognizant of what's going on. Again, I'll say that's part of the wonderful job that our AD and COVID coordinator is doing. At this time, we have one staff member out because of COVID-related reasons. We have 27 students out. We were down under 20, but the weekend usually brings us other news. Some of the things that the state is coming up with is they would like us to give options for all secondary students to be tested in school or a take-home saliva test. It's painless. It works real well. It's the one that the staff members can take if they so elect to do. You usually get the results within 24 to 36 hours, and all you do is open a tube and spit it. They're also, that's a bi-weekly test they're suggesting if students want to take advisory, again, on athletics, to get tested weekly, and that's to prevent having the whole team go out if we can locate stuff early. We're talking a little bit about possible vaccination clinics here in Royalton, possibly at school for kids 16 through 18, excuse me. And that would apply only if we can get Pfizer, and we're working with a hospital to get one of those here. Pfizer is okay for 16 through 18-year-olds. We're also looking at a possible clinic here to vaccinate anybody in the community or the area that would like to come into Royalton, looking for times and dates for that. We have real problems continually. I can't remember, Randy, if you were one of them that took a walk up on the top of the building. The joke was for everybody, we should start to put fish in there, and we could have fishing contests and everything else because it holds so much water. But that's something we need to take care of down the line. a lot of times in board book, we have started to put in possible motions. And we might not make a motion on a night. Tonight are a couple examples of that, but that's to help people take notes and put it down and also reflect what's going on. It's an aid to Susan right now. So I want you to be well aware of that. That's all I have for now.
Okay. Business managers report?
Okay, busy time of year, especially this year. It's been, seems like, feel like we're all swimming in a deep ocean and trying to not drown here, but I have started working on the adopted budget for 21-22. It's due in June at the board meeting. I am also working on revised budget to actuals, and I will be having a few more finance committee meetings here coming up, I believe. We'll schedule one at the end of the meeting for the beginning of May. Let's see. So I want to talk a little bit about Mars. Mars is the reason I held off on the April finance committee meeting, as nothing had changed with our Mars submission. The state is kind of on a hold with their Ed 5, which is the new Mars. So, and our numbers hadn't changed. We were up from a 999 to 1,007, which obviously we are still a lot farther down than the end of last year at 1,042. So I did have a lot of revenue differences to report, but this Mars submission, I'm hoping to have something different, but our expense side of things are obviously changing a little. Our budgets, what I budgeted, I'm working on budgets to actuals now as we get into April, May, June, and I think we will end the year. I hope I think on a positive note. It looks like it. I will have to speak to special ed now that the cap has been lifted on special ed for 2021. Our funding has gone down a little, but our it has a lot to do with our whole harmless and the cap. So we did lose about $20,000, $25,000 that I can see from MD's best guess in special ed. So that's always to be determined. That normally doesn't, we don't really see anything to the following year in February. So it's always a year to 2 years out when we get our finals on special ed. So I just wanted everyone to be cognizant. We are moving in the right direction on ADMs, but we're not close to where we were last year. I'm hoping by the time we report special ed, we'll be within probably hopefully 10 to 12 ADMs, which is closer than we started the year. So, and that's average daily membership for anybody that doesn't know what an ADM is. So, sorry that I talk in acronyms. Average daily membership for all the board members that didn't know what that was. So, the other thing I want to chat with is Tony DeValsco working on getting roof quotes. Now with this rain, it's imperative that we have two piece parts of roofs that need to be repaired. It wasn't quite as urgent as it has been since we've gotten some rain here today. It was one of those days, but we have a section on the high school building and a section on the elementary. He got them quoted separately, and we actually just had them quoted together. Being it's under the federal bid law of $175,000, we do not have to go out for sealed bids. So we did get quotes, and he's close to getting an okay. Wanted the board know we're at about $132,000 with those two roofs. So those two pieces. So just want to let you know that's what we set that money aside for at the end of fiscal year 1920 is to start the process and repair some of these roofs. So that process has been started, and hopefully we'll have that done depending on the contractors by May or June. So
okay.
That being said, let me see what else I have on my list. Also, I just want to touch base, and I know I might be touched later in the meeting. The committed fund balance that we set aside at the end of last year and last fiscal year, Remember, some of that has to do with the reading program for ECC in kindergarten, so I just wanted the board, for any new members, we did commit a fund balance in the end of 1920 for roof repairs and for early childhood, or reading program.
Yeah, maybe just go into a little bit what that even means, committing a.
So what we did at the end of the year, and how this came about is we had revenue streams that came in. We saved approximately $150,000 in insurances last year from switching over companies. This company that we moved over with our general liability, property, work comp, auto saved us about $150,000 total. Our APUs, which is our pupil units, adjusted pupil units, were higher than they have ever been. So we gained about $160,000 in revenue in pupil units, and our special ed revenue was higher than it had ever been. So we had a surplus in our fund balance. So we, or the board, had decided to commit some of this fund balance to go ahead and fix some of the facilities that need to repair. So we have that money aside, so we're not scrambling if it ever comes to fruition that we have a large expense.
Do you have anything else?
No, I'm good. Any questions? All right, thanks.
All right. Principals reports.
Our grades 3 through 5 students are taking the MCA, so we'll be busy with that till the beginning of May. We're working on class lists for next year and budget orders and scheduling. So, feel like we're right on pace, getting done what we need to get done.
Joel?
We are also in the middle of the MCAs, reading last week, math this week, and science next week in multiple grade levels. Should give us a baseline to take a look at as to how the last year of schooling has affected where we're at with curriculum, what we got to, what we didn't, and then make some decisions instructionally and with curriculum as to where we go from there. We just finished scheduling for next year, and we're just working out some of the cleanup stuff at the end, a few different class operating and some schedule changes and things like that. And then I'm working on graduation. Board members can expect a letter from me. You're all formally invited to be a part of the graduation ceremony. We're planning for an indoor graduation ceremony on Friday, May 28th. 7 o'clock in the South Gym. Board members will be seated on the stage. I have nobody with a child graduating this year, so usually the board chair and the vice chair hand out the diplomas then. But you will get a letter from me with a formal invitation and instructions for what board members need to do on the night of graduation. So that is where we are at currently, and moving towards the end of the year.
Marion?
I just have a quick question of both the principals. Do our teachers teach to the MCAs, or do they just kind of throw it out there? Do you understand what I'm saying? Do they teach to the test, or do they just try to be inclusive in the curriculum?
I would say that I'll speak for 612, is that we definitely, I would say, do not teach to the test. I discourage that. The main goal should be, according to the proficiency scales and priority standards that we've taught, that those are reflective of what's going to be expected on the MCA at a certain level. But I feel that the curriculum has more depth and more importance than just teaching to a test.
Thank you. How about you, Dr. Gravata?
Yes, we focus on priority standards, and organizing the curriculum, as Joel was saying, around unit planning, the priority standards, the assessments based on that. And those are correlated to the MCAs to some extent, or to a large extent. And we work more toward just giving a broad, focused education, and the MCAs give some feedback where we need to make adjustments with our program.
The problem I see with the MCAs is they are really out there for a more urban society than we dwell in. And I really feel that sometimes, yes, our kids do well in certain areas, but in some places they don't. And I'm just curious as how do we make up for that somehow? They don't have that, they don't have that integration. They don't have those experiences. They don't have huge museums and art, things that, yes, they do get exposed, but it's a little snippet. It's not like, a very organized, casual way of, oh yeah, we'll go to the art museum and figure that out. No, they don't have that ability. And so that's what I'm asking, because I really think that that is a really poor way to measure a child's achievement. And I do, and I think that we put a lot of stock in it, and I really question that. And I'm just wondering, how do you feel about that?
I think the goal, I feel like the goal for us, I try to look at it as a big picture of making decisions about the curriculum. And does the data that we get from the MCAs, wherever our kids are there adjustments that we can make? While we have a really gaping hole in this standard.
Right.
Now let's go back through PLC work and see if we need to address that, or is there something that we're missing, or is there a gap in the curriculum, or what are we doing to address that? But I look at it more of a broad spectrum of kids rather than putting one kid under a microscope and trying to make decisions that way.
But we're so small, Joel. We're such a small number. And I think that sometimes those kids have a far greater experience. I mean, they might know a whole lot more about farming than any kid in the city ever thought of, all right? And they know about the mathematics and the science and all of that. And yet that isn't really tested that well in the MCAs. And that's what I'm questioning. I really have to challenge that, because I think we put a lot of stock in those. And I really think, okay, as a teacher, a former teacher, and God bless you, you have to almost teach the test. You really would. And I don't see how you can't. But I'm just asking. Not putting you on the spot. I'm just asking because I think some things really need to change. That's all. Thank you.
You have anything else, Joel? Okay, we're gonna circle back. I guess Tony's on the line for presentations. Tony, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
All right, you got the floor.
All right, thank you. I gave you a longer, more lengthy athletics update here for April. I just want to clean up a couple things from winter. State wrestling happened, and unfortunately we lost in the quarter or the semifinal match against Kimball, the eventual state champion. But it was fun for the kids to be down there. In the individual part, we had we had 5 participants. We had 3 place winners. With Mason Novitsky placed 6th. We had Gabe Goretzky placed 4th, and then we had a finalist and Jacob Leibold, and Jacob ended up losing in the finals match, placing 2nd. So hats off to them. So for speech just happened this past weekend for state, and we had 1 participant for our state speech meet, Naomi Ferguson. Naomi placed 3rd, and that's a remarkable achievement for her. So kudos to her as well. As we've transitioned here into May next week, we've had a slug of reschedules, not due to COVID, but due to weather. We've had a lot of rain, a lot of cold, and we pressed on today, and we sent our softball team to Kimball to play a game, and then we waited out the rain here, our couple downpours, and the boys are out playing right now, playing baseball. So glad to have them outside and participating. You've seen some work out in the softball fields for our softball program. We've got a batting cage with a concrete border now. Now we just the work is to fill it in with that red rock and then anchor down that that batting cage. So we have a lot of things going on. Some things held up. Makes for a busy May with competitions going Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, Fridays sometimes. So just glad to be out there.
You have anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Great, thank you. All right.
Item 6.
All right, moving on then. Any other reports? All right, consent agenda.
Excuse me, did we do number 7, recognition of citizens for input?
Oh. No, we didn't. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's where I missed. Oh, okay, recognition of citizens for input purposes. I guess we'll just give it a minute here and see if there's anybody out there that wants to say anything. I do look forward to the time when we can have the public back into the board room and have that kind of a meeting again, so. Okay, I don't hear anybody. If somebody raised their hand or something, let me know, we'll circle back. Going on to the consent agenda. Everybody have a chance to look at the consent agenda? Yeah. Me through. No. Yeah, there we go.
Mr. Short.
Yeah. Funny, it looks like different on paper, it doesn't on computer. Does anybody want to pull anything from the consent agenda? Anybody want to discuss anything from the consent agenda? I guess I will. Superintendent's contract. You guys want to pull that and go on and accept it, or? I don't know. I don't know a reason for it. I don't know a reason against it. That's a question I have. I don't know. You guys are a quiet bunch.
I'm good either way.
You're good either way.
Yep.
Does anybody find a reason to not have it in the consent agenda? All right. What I'm looking for now is approval for the consent agenda. All right, no, a motion, that's what I'm looking for.
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that. Okay, it was moved by Director Garrett and seconded by Director Hofstad to approve the consent agenda, which is 9A through M, which consists of the regular board minutes from March 22nd, non-union negotiation meeting minutes of March 22nd, special meeting minutes of March 31st, special meeting minutes of April 7th, special meeting minutes of April 12th, claims, accounts, and financials, approval of resignations, approval of new hires, which includes Jeremy Albright for junior high football, approval of leaves, approval of the superintendent contract, approval of the business manager contract, approval of the activity director contract, and approval of the technology integrationist agreement. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, will the superintendent call the roll?
Director Bauman,
Aye.
Director Garretts. Aye. Director Hackett,
Aye.
Director Hofstad,
Aye.
Director Lang,
Aye.
Director Roaring.
Aye.
Is that everybody?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Let the record reflect that the motion passes 6-0-0. Sorry, that space note there for a second, so you can hear everybody. All right, discussion, information, and action items. Approval of donation by resolution. Do you have the resolution, John? I have it. All right. So we have two donations to approve tonight. According to Minnesota State statute, we have to approve these now by resolution. The first one is $50 to the Royalton Drama Program. So I'm looking for somebody to introduce it. Anybody? Okay, Bauman. Member Bauman introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption, whereas Gail and Earl Matheson have generously offered to donate $50 to the Royalton School District. Whereas the conditions on this gift are for use in the drama program. Therefore, be it resolved by the Royalton School Board to gratefully accept the gift. The motion for adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by member
Lang.
And upon a roll call vote being taken thereon, the following voted in favor of. Will the superintendent call the roll?
Director Bauman,
Aye.
Director Garretts. Aye. Director Hackett,
Aye.
Director Hofstad,
Aye.
Director Lang,
Aye.
Director Roaring.
Aye.
And the following voted against. And the following abstained. The foregoing resolution was approved this 26th day of April, 2021, 6-0-0. All right, and we have another one, which is a donation to the elementary school band program. Would somebody like to introduce that?
I can, Randy.
Member Garrett has introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. Whereas Medtronic's Foundation Match Program has generously offered to donate $1,500 to the Royalton School District. Whereas the conditions on this gift are for use in the elementary school band program. Therefore, be it resolved by the Royalton School Board to gratefully accept the gift. The motion for adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by member
Lang.
She's on time, I'll tell you that. And upon the roll call vote being taken thereon, the following voted in favor of. Will the superintendent call the roll?
Director Bauman,
Aye.
Director Garretts.
Aye.
Director Hackett,
Aye.
Director Hofstad,
Aye.
Director Lang,
Aye.
Director Roaring.
Aye.
And the following voted against, which was no one, and the following who abstained was no one. The foregoing resolution 6-0-0 approved this 26th day of April, 2021. There we go. We thank everybody that donates. The resolution statute really makes it clumsy to accept these. You know, it's legal and everything, but it's really clumsy, and we do appreciate it. So I know it seems kind of mechanical the way we do it, but it's by state statute. So thank you again for your donations. All right, moving on to the agenda.
There are 2 more donations, aren't there? Another one for drama, or is that just repeat?
No, that was
Just repeat.
a letter and,
Gotcha. Yep, thank you.
okay. 10B, approval of the tower lease.
Yeah, I put out to everybody here the last 2 discussions we've had and what the tower company that leases to us does. I also has offered to do for us, to make things a little better for us. It did bring us in a little more money if you accept one of these, and it shortens the time of the lease. So our lawyer totally agrees, feels that any of these are good for the district. We do have to be, which was brought up before, that we have to be cognizant on a few things as time goes on, and that could be especially, set up to remind for years to come. And that is, we want to review those agreements over time with them, and any changes that we're going to make have to be done early enough that we present to them if we discontinue the lease. But those, he feels all parts are excellent. So when we look at it, I believe for you, I highlighted a couple things because I wasn't sure on exactly what they were trying to say. But our lawyer says those are excellent things for us, and that's what he put in the contract for me prior to January 1st, when we started to renegotiate with them. So does anyone have any questions for me based on this?
How many years did they decide upon, John?
Well, they've offered to do 20-year option, 20-year extension, 4 times 5-year renewal terms. With that, we get 15,000 signing bonus 30 days after closing. We still keep the escalator rate that remains, so that keeps going up.
What is that rate, John? What is that? How much do we get per month?
Well, it goes up over time.
That's fine, but what is it?
I'm just trying to recall offhand, because I did present that one other time. Is it 3%?
Yes, right now we're getting $1,210 per month every year, 3% on the payment, 3% escalated rate.
And they're okay with the 20-year?
Yeah, yes, they are. Okay, there's also a 30-year, was similar on if we go 30 years, at signing 30 days after, we get $30,000. Everything else remains the same. It's just we're doing it for 6 5-year leases. Please understand that across the road there is another tower that they do lease out, and there are other individuals that use that, other people that are doing that. Off the table, they would not accept if they're adding things onto the tower. My thing is, I've gone through this one time with them and negotiated out things that protected us. We've been going on again now for 4 months, at the end of 4 months, trying to find or help out the board and go with their wishes on this. What I would like tonight, so we can get this done, is permission from the board. You pick one of the 2 to go with. It cuts down the years. And as requested, we come out ahead on the money because it's $30,000 for a 30-year lease, which is nice. It's $1,000 a year. You might not think that's very much, but this is free money for us. Like I said,
front end though, too.
Yeah.
This is front end money, and
Front end
this
money.
is the easiest money we're ever gonna collect as a district. I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer.
Yours.
John, did you find out if it does become obsolete, who would be responsible for taking it down?
They are, and if they're not, that's in the lease also. If they're not, then Verizon will be.
That is the lease agreement.
I read
It's
that.
stated in the-
Good question, though.
Will we gain any money if they lease that tower out to other entities? Or do they just give us a flat rate, as we say?
They just give us a flat rate.
That's
They
what I
were
thought.
willing to
That's
do
why
that.
it doesn't pay to get in too many years, because you don't know what's gonna happen 20 years from now. And that is a big concern.
Right, agreed, but right, for us, it's still property we're not excessive, we're not using right now anyway, and we're getting, for us, we are receiving revenue for it right now, and we're not doing anything with the property at this point. So yes, I do agree, at some point we might,
That's right.
yes.
But we do have that option, they put that in there that we can move the tower at our expense.
Well, I don't want to do.
I'll give out
That's not what I want to
$150,000.
do.
So, you know, if you build a new school, it'd be a great place for a courtyard.
I
That's
think
what I'm
so. There
saying.
you go.
Now, around the tower, we go. Yeah.
Oh, whatever.
They'll make it a May Day,
Yeah.
Vanessa Westmore.
Mary thing.
What was the first option, 20-year, and what was
The first option is 20-year with 15,000, 30 years with 30,000.
But we tie it up for 10 extra years.
Their problem is, like, if we only get 5-year leases, they're not gonna get anyone on there. And with the escalator clause, they're not gonna make a lot more money. In fact, they'll lose money as we close the gap.
Well, I'm sure the technology that they put up there is good for 7 to 10 years, so how are they gonna get somebody to put equipment up there? I mean, half the cost is getting equipment up there to begin with.
Yeah, they changed, I believe, so they could go to 5G this last summer, I believe it was, they were climbing up the, by the way, that's a job I want. I get a little acrophobic watching them climb up there.
Okay. Is there any other questions about the tower leases that have been presented?
I don't have any questions. I personally think the 30-year would be a okay option.
Is that a motion?
Well, other people want to say anything.
Well, so
No,
right now.
everybody else is against it.
Because right now we got 3 options. We either table this thing indefinitely, or we can move for its adoption on one of the two. So,
I'll make a motion.
all right, there's a motion to accept which one?
30 years.
The 30-year lease.
Can I just amend that a little bit? Read the amendment.
Yeah.
On agreement by our attorney and myself. Because I'm not gonna accept anything if they change some of the word.
All right. Okay, so Susan, work with me here. Director Hofstad moves to adopt the 30-year lease pending legal and superintendent approval. Does that work? So you can make that right?
Language.
Of language.
Approval of language.
Approval of language. All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, let's have our discussion if we're gonna have it. Any discussion?
Just one difference on the proposal via briefing, the tower relocation language versus the 20 and 30-year options. One, it said just language, and the other one, it said language at LL's cost. Is there a difference between the two proposals, the 20 and 30?
That's the land leasee's cost, that's us. The other one up above, he's just referring to the language that's there. He added that LLS cost.
So it's the same.
It'll be the same.
So it's really just the year difference plus the upfront
Correct.
payment is really.
And we double the payment in 10 years.
Okay, any other discussion?
I guess I kind of like the 20-year option, more flexibility, but
I do too.
I could be persuaded. The per year price isn't much different.
Because we can renegotiate it soon, is what I'm thinking.
There's also a chance in 10 years that nobody's gonna need it. in 10
And that's
years.
fine, then we get the land back.
Yep.
You know,
That's in the contract too.
they're not gonna keep staying out if it's not here.
Right.
Correct.
It is obsolete in 20 years.
And then they move it up. I could see it being 10 years myself. Just a point, it's okay if we don't agree, that's good, that's healthy for a board. If you don't have the anonymous vote all the time, not anonymous.
Unanimous.
Unanimous. There we go. Speech impediment takes over. Anonymous, yeah, you can't vote out loud. So, but
Anonymous
it's a
means
good
that
thing.
they know who you
Unanimous
are,
is a big
I
one
guess.
out of that, but okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, well, superintendent call the roll.
Director Bauman,
Aye.
Director Jared,
Aye.
Director Hackett,
Aye.
Director Hofstad,
Aye.
Director Lang,
No.
Director Roaring,
Aye.
Okay, let the record reflect, the motion passes 5-1-0. All right, moving on. 10C, girls basketball fundraiser. Do we have to approve this?
Yes, according to APA, sorry, so
Yep.
you can understand, maybe student activity, accounting rules, math rules with GASB. Any fundraisers that happen in student activities have to be approved prior to the fundraiser happening. So it's in the minutes and paid for audit purposes.
It just seems
Redundant?
that we're out for a power grab. That's what it feels like, that, we're talking about girls basketball. I mean, if they want to have a fundraiser, they should just be able to. I get it. I get the legal part of it, but
Part of it is, it's not a power grab. Part of it is the type of fundraiser that these entities tend to have. It's the GoFundMe's, it's the online things that are not eligible fundraisers. So that's why it comes to the board, and it comes through the chain of command and protocol. So we're all aware that what type of fundraiser it is and that it meets the expectation and the eligibility to be a fundraiser. So it's really not a power grab. I understand the premise.
so I'm just gonna, I remember the classroom right over there, a math teacher told me the danger of assuming, but I'm going to assume that by the time it gets to our agenda, that it's past all them bars.
Yes, I have
Okay.
checked it out. I have made sure.
Because I don't know the rules. So you're talking about all these rules and I don't know them, so I'm hoping they're good.
No, if it is on the agenda, that means it has met the protocol and and it's gone through. The coach has looked at it, he's brought it to the activities
Okay.
director. The activities director has brought it to myself. I brought it to the superintendent, and now you guys are the final, okay,
Okay.
let's get this thing done.
All right,
Yeah,
Director Bauman.
I will say the coaches, they don't look at it, at least this one. They don't think it's a power grab, like, they understand, like, it's just protocol and has to go through it, so I think coaches know
Yeah.
it's just how it has to go.
Okay.
I don't think they give it a second thought.
Superintendent Phelps.
yeah, I just want to help the rest of the board and the community if they're listening, what brought this all about. This came about a number of years ago, when strangely enough, there were some coaches that were caught embezzling the money. This is a way to protect the coaches, to protect the schools, protect the parents and the students.
Okay.
Not here.
Not in this district.
Not in, no, this was not, thank you, not in this district. Southeast, it's a federal law, federal.
They still be talking about it, we all know who it is if it happens in this district, that's all.
Yeah.
Sure.
Jeez.
All right, so is there a motion to approve the girls basketball fundraiser? So, is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Director Garrett and seconded by Director Lang to approve the girls basketball fundraiser. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the superintendent call the roll?
Director Bauman,
Abstain.
Director Garrett. Aye. Director Hackett,
Aye.
Director Hofstad. Aye. Director Lang,
Aye.
Director Roaring.
Aye.
Let the record reflect that the motion is passed 5-0-1.
Point of order.
Yes?
Abstention moves to the majority.
Oh, does it? All right, 6-0 then. I always forget those rules. I knew I was gonna trip on that. All right, so the motion passes 6-0. 10D, policy readings. All right, so we got the policies, 412, expense reimbursement. 413, harassment and violence. 413 with the harassment and violence form. 515, protection of privacy of pupils' records. And 515, protection of privacy of pupil records forms. And 526, hazing prohibition.
This is to move them to the second reading. This finishes the second reading if they pass.
Yep, so the next time they show up, it should be the next meeting and they should be all the changes made on them.
I'll make a motion that we accept the second reading of those policies.
Don't think we have to take a motion on them, Mary, you just have to read them in public.
All right.
Unless there's an objection.
Unless there's an objection to that. All right. Going on to 10E, AD assistant principal position.
Yeah, I bring this forward. Initially, when we hired our AD, he had a principal's license, and the overall look at it was eventually to hire him also as an assistant principal. If we look at other schools, they have assistant principals that aren't AD. There's one that has an assistant principal, pardon me, a dean and an assistant principal. And so, I don't like the dean role because they're not official. They don't have a principal's license. And every time something happens, they have to go back to the principal. That complicates the principal's role. I've lived that life, having an assistant principal as an AD, having all of the ADs be licensed principals in every place I was a principal, which makes a huge difference. Number two, the principal's role in the past 10 years has really changed an awful lot. And I was part of that evolution of seeing it played out. Originally, they took care of the business, and they took care of the scheduling and all the distance. The role has transitioned actually over 20 years into being a learning leader. That is a term that we use. Unfortunately, when you get a phone call, it eats up your day, and the plans you might have to work on, to work with teachers and everything else disappears. And you can't be that learning leader you need to be. Joel, do you have something to add to that?
Most of the schools that are in our conference or in our size and section all have assistant principals. A few that have deans that are a little smaller than us. I was very cautious about, this is not so if I can take something off my plate and read the newspaper during the day. It is allowing me to transfer some of my work to another qualified individual so I could spend my time in classrooms working with teachers, the strategic plan stuff that unfortunately, when you get the phone call or you get the student in your office, that stuff just gets pushed to the side because you have to deal with it here and now. And that happens a lot. When I took over as principal, there was 323 students in this building, and we're going to be at over 540 next year. And so it's a size of a school that this is something that's needed.
Do we offer that individual a separate contract then for that position, John, or is it included with the AD? Because that's what I kind of wondered about when I saw the.
Yeah, normally what you would do is you would do principal / AD.
Assistant.
Pardon me, assistant principal AD. Thank you for correcting me that.
Okay. And then you would include those responsibilities and then up that pay grade a bit, huh?
Correct.
Okay.
absolutely.
But we
correct.
didn't do that now because we didn't have an okay on it yet.
No, that's absolutely, you know, we can move forward.
Well, no, because I was
working
looking
out
at
a
his contract and I thought, well, where is the assistant principal part of it?
This is the discussion phase.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is just him bringing it forward right now.
okay.
Now,
Well, I
the
see nothing
contract
wrong with it.
is for this past year for our AD.
Yeah,
Okay,
we were behind on contracts. this year.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I know.
Severely.
I know that.
COVID played a huge role
Oh,
in
yeah.
a few other obstacles which were opportunities.
And Joel, you have enough work to keep another feller busy, do you? Because he's pretty busy as an activities director too, you know.
Yes, I mean, and some of this would not take place until after COVID was off. I mean, the
Okay.
COVID-19 responsibilities.
Right,
are-
COVID is just, yeah, it's wiping
So none
everybody
of this,
out.
none of this would go into action until COVID goes away.
What is that?
Yeah. tell us what. I don't know if we can take the mask
Now,
off.
I'm taking them to the nearest casino.
Now, what about Dr. Gabata? Does he need some assistance also? I mean, can we? I
I'm
hate
glad
to
you
throw
brought
this-
that up.
No, okay, well, I brought it up
I
there.
don't get any phone calls.
Yes, that's what I thought. Yes, no kidding.
They show up in his
Nobody knows
office.
about it.
One of the problems we have is, we have problems many times with ECC, of which Phil is also in charge of.
Right.
This would have somebody that's right there to help out. You say, oh, the superintendent is, but yeah, there are times that I do fill in, but it's still not with him there. Where this is an assistant principal that can help out in ECC, meaning kindergarten and.
So really, anything that's in this building is what you're saying, right?
Correct.
Okay, so, you know, that's gonna have to be made very clear in that contract. So that that poor feller isn't running back and forth and everywhere, or lady, whatever it ends up being eventually. Right?
Correct.
And yet, will that be enough assistance for the elementary? Is my question. I can't answer that, you have to, Dr. Prescott.
He's between a rock and a hard place.
Yes.
Right now, a lot of that at ECC kindergarten comes to the district office, because Bill's busy with, Dr. Rabata's busy. in his building.
It's right there, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's right here, yeah, I mean, it's in this building, yeah.
And I don't want to dissuade or persuade, I just want the board to be cognizant that we are down. Our funding numbers are down, so I just, that's
So
what
is
my
everybody
concern, with
else's,
this whole
though.
conversation of, and not that I don't think that this is a good opportunity, I want the board to really understand that we are still in COVID, we are down numbers, I don't know when we will recover. So is it the best time? Is it not the best time? I do not know. I just wanted to bring it forward. I would feel like I didn't do due diligence if I did not say that. And we
I
didn't
understand.
move forward with that.
So, go ahead, Director
I was
Garrett.
just say that, I guess that would be, I think we'd have to understand what it would mean, right, to have Mr. Newman go into the assistant principal, right, because it is a different contract, he's now part of the principals union, which all good things for him, right?
Is he part of it or only part of it?
Well,
I mean,
Part of it.
yeah, you know,
part of the-
that's where it gets confusing when you have, you played this role once before where you were part-time one thing and part-time another, I mean, teacher, and you're in two different places.
The biggest problem is when you're teaching and you're an AD. I worked for an AD like that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it rained like it did today, and you had to make adjustments. Your class ended up with this AD, I'm sure Joel never did this, with the latest film that came into the AV department. Had nothing to do with it. It really stresses out that position. Obviously, the AD has to do that role. I had two AD assistant principals in the roles that I played as a principal of two schools. And it worked out fine. There's enough, and we both tag teamed off. There still might be days, I'll say it again. a heavy rain today, you gotta readjust schedules and everything else. You tag team up and say, Joel, I gotta get this done. In good principles, as I think Joel will, and say, I understand, I'll take care of it, don't worry. It's just like now, a few times, I know, Joel has asked Tony to help him. If there's a problem or one of the, principals is gone from the building, that would be also something Tony could, fill in for us.
So I have two things that I have rolling around in my head. And the first thing is it common to have somebody with both credentials? I mean,
What do you mean?
so that we're not manicuring a position for a person that may not be here in 5 years, and then can we fill that again?
Well, I think that's how this position, that's how it was hired, is because if this person was, because there was this person had an administrative license. So this person, even though the position wasn't administrative, was an AD position, that is, I think, the precursor, I mean, they saw a future need for that position. I think that's how that came to
Yeah,
fruition.
and I can answer that, and Joel can testify, he was not hired to become that. What I did was see an opportunity to do that.
I just see in the future if somebody left and then you fill the position.
And
That's,
then you try to fill it. There are
So-
lots of people that are trying to get. those.
and then the other thing that's rolling around in my head is we have a new superintendent coming in 2.5 months. Is this a big change to do right before we have an administration change? Now, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know that anybody has an answer to that, but we need to think of that just a little bit. So
I do think the work is there. I know the work is there.
I don't doubt that. I mean, we've been through, 3-4 years ago, we looked at a deed position, and Joel, I can't imagine your discipline has gotten better since 4 years ago. Your time spending disciplining kids, and, he did a spreadsheet for us then, or a slideshow on showing us the time that he spent doing that, 5 years before and then now, and I get it. So go ahead, Director Garrett.
I would like to see too, before I would decide, I would like to see the schools in our conference or that are like size to see how they're addressing it as well.
I do have, I guess I could have brought, I didn't know it was gonna go this far. We do have that, because we did talk about it. And I think you have something too.
I just say, because I just looked at Paintsville, VE, Holding Ford, Union Valley, Watkins, and those 4 all have a team.
They do.
Yeah, holding for.
But they don't have an assistant.
Is it virtually the same position?
No,
No.
because it's not
Nice.
licensed. So you have to root back to the principal anyways.
So they can't fully deal with something, so
They
so
can't-
they're
they
like
can't
crossing
suspend
it.
it.
with the principal.
They can't suspend and they can't evaluate teachers.
That's right.
But that would be Joel's. That would be your opinion anyway, wouldn't it?
So
For Valley.
You can share that though too, if you can.
Director Bauman.
Yes. I am just questioning, let's say we approve this at some point, and we know it's not gonna be until for next year. What if pupil count goes way low and we can't fit it into the budget? Like what happens then? Or can that happen? I guess I don't know.
Superintendent and I have had pretty extensive conversations about that. I mean,
And this is for anything.
because this is,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
this is,
let's say we
this is, I know the need, I understand the need, but I also have to understand physically how this affects. I do think we are going to recover. I mean, obviously, our numbers will go up. If it wouldn't, I guess there has been, if we reevaluate, goes back to an AD, I don't know.
I just didn't know if that was like a plus, and really, that's.
I mean,
not
nobody
just
ever
with
wants
this-
to go backwards. Once you're in an administrative position or a position that's an advancement, no one's gonna wanna obviously go backwards and say, no, I'll settle for going back to my previous, you know. I guess I wouldn't. But yeah, we've had some extensive conversations about
Well,
that.
I mean, there's some other levels in education right now in our school where we could possibly cut back too. If we just say, well, you know, we lost 40 this year, so we better cut this back and this back. We're not doing that in anticipation. It would be year 2 that it could be a problem. If that's the case, you can always go backwards, but again, it doesn't alleviate the number change over the past. When did the 6th graders move in? So that was the first step. Okay, and then the largest class came in 3 years ago, and the second largest class is coming in next year, into the secondary.
Director Lang.
I really would like to follow the guidance of our principals. Do you need this man or woman, whatever it may be? Do you need them? Or is it a want? We're going back to a 2nd grade skill here, okay? Do you need him or do you just want him?
I looked at it as my teachers want me to be in classrooms more than I do. And when I look at other schools and I look at the levels, some of the discipline stuff, all I have time to do is it's just reactive. I'm just reacting to what's there instead of in this position, this person might be able to put some more proactive measures in place and eliminate some of that discipline. When you look at comparisons, I look at a school like Pillager, which is almost exactly the same size as us, as high school principal, middle school principal, and an elementary principal. If you look at Piers is 712. Piers has 1 less grade level in their high school building, has a principal and a full-time AP. And so just the amount of support that those districts have administratively, I'm kind of, it's something that I thought we should have done 4 years ago. That the numbers indicate that support is needed.
Thank you.
I can do the job, but I mean, we can do.
Well, no, I know you, no, Joe, I know you can do the job. I don't have any doubt. But wouldn't we be a more attractive school to young parents if we had that assistant principal who could pick up that slack? And for the young people, the little guys that Dr. Grabata has over here in this building, I think that's a selling point. I really do. I think that's something that we can use to sell our educational program. And anything we can do to do that will help build the numbers that we need to pay for this position. And I understand what you're saying also.
Yeah, we also don't want to put programs to support that also. It's a double-edged sword. I agree with Joel.
Dr. Garrett.
The other thing to add, I know right now, the athletic director is also a secretary. So now if that athletic director becomes assistant principal, what happens to that secretary duty as well? Are we hiring another person because we need secretaries?
That was not the plan.
Yeah, I didn't do that either, but maybe I missed it.
So there would be, we were planning on having.
Okay.
I'm guessing he's spending a majority of his time on COVID right now.
That's
I mean,
understatement.
we're hoping that that will go away, right?
Yeah.
Well, some of the duties that you would be adopting as the assistant principal are things that my secretaries are already doing for me. They would just be doing it for, I mean, really you team up on it depending on what's going on, but a lot of those things.
Could we cut a secretarial position? I mean, I'm sorry, but you know, sometimes when you build up here, you have to take away a little back here, you know.
Joel, would there be opportunities for, I mean, collaboration for you and with, you know, observing teachers? Where one of you observes and then the other one and
Absolutely.
I mean, because you between 2 minds would be better than one, right? I mean, but is there a big gain there potentially?
Something called inter-rater reliability, where you have people look at and collaborate on. It's the same evaluation where you go in and take a look at it and then get together and compare your notes So you know that when you're, what I'm looking at as good instruction is the same as what the AP is looking at as good instruction, for sure.
I would add, Director Hackett, part of the HRS program, part of the strategic plan
Yes.
requires rounds. One of the recommendations in rounds is multiple administrators make the rounds together.
Well, wasn't that ICOMP or QCOMP or something originally?
That I couldn't tell you, because that's QComp, everybody writes their own plan. Okay.
But
QComp.
part of it was that they got more than one person doing the rounds, that they got multiple people. And I remember watching a presentation on that about how they had 3 people sitting in a classroom taking notes, and, you know, some people, you know, out of the 3 people, one person missed something really good that happened, you know, so that's, you know, I can see that that's part of it, you know.
It's also part of that plan is to have teachers do rounds. And
Yes.
that's one of the things that we talked about setting up, but that's when COVID hit. Otherwise, this past year, we would have been doing.
We paid teachers for that just up until last year.
I wanted to add to Mary's, right now, with the secretarial positions that we have in the office, there are, we have 1 full-time secretary and 1 person who's there from 7:30 to 1. So there are times in the afternoon when our nurse is in the ECC and we get a sick kid, my secretary is going back to help the sick kid, and I am coming out of my office to cover the front office and answer the phone and ring the door, and so there's some inefficiencies there that creates, if one of them is gone for some reason or something happens, that there's times where I'm sitting I'm doing my job, sitting in the front office, answering the door and answering phones.
But where's the full-time secretary doing that time job?
She's out of the building. It's the time.
If she's out of the building, or if the nurses are one at the elementary and one in the ECC, my nurse is covering the nurse's office. You know, if someone comes in or we get a kid who gets a
I
light.
understand the coverage, I do. you know,
Yeah,
but-
so I mean, it's, I think secretaries were right fitted after a few years of tinkering around with it. It's not perfect, but I think I don't think that we are overstaffed. If the principal's covering the front office at times during the day, I would not consider
I
that.
came in once and Joel was covering the front office and it was crazy and he was doing a fine job, so.
Can I add one thing?
Yes, go ahead.
So the perspective I have towards this is that this is what's gonna create and follows our strategic plan to create a lifelong learner, right? Because if the principal can't get in to evaluate teachers and help do that and help bring the curriculum, the PLCs and everything right on board, this is the opportunity to make sure that happens, to make the school better and our learning environment better and all that. So I totally support it.
Good.
If we make the motion to approve it, what's the timeline?
Well, I would think the next step would be then to put together the contract and negotiate it and get the principals, we need to get the principals negotiation team together anyway and start to break down things and try to prepare something by the next meeting.
I'd also have to create a baseline. This is a new position.
Yeah.
This is the end. I will be honest, I think we saw the non-union negotiations that the contract that this position currently has is very well rewarded, and I mean, I'd have to do a baseline. I see Joel's need, I have reservations financially, but I always worries me that, and I know there's needs, I understand that, I get it, but sometimes we don't always see the financial repercussions of the needs, but I do support this strategic plan and what we need to move forward.
So I think what you're asking was, would this be for next year then? Is that what we're looking for?
Correct.
Well, and I mean, and also, are we I mean, I agree with you too, Randy, what is the new superintendent? I mean, I think that person would agree.
I
that-
know,
I mean,
I hate
feel
to
that-
assume, but then again, so I know the length, the time it takes to put a contract together and, you know, it's not just something that happens overnight, you need to get a ball rolling, so.
Right. Well, this one will do that. I mean, there's the baseline and stuff, it's just,
I
What
can,
is it,
I can
July,
also
July?
add that, remember, the principals were doing this year's, so it'd only be a 1-year contract
Okay,
for the AG principal.
so the horse is almost dead, we've been beating on it, so what do you guys wanna do?
I would like to get more information, because I don't know enough, I mean.
Yep.
I know that we talked about in our district, but to me, one of the peers has like 200 more students in their high school than we do. I want to know more about that before I take it. I also would like to know financially, because if we are that close, what are we gonna, if we hire, are we sure that we're gonna have enough pupils? Otherwise, how will we pay for it? That's my two concerns. So that, I have no problems if I get that information, but I would not, I'm not comfortable voting on it tonight, but that's just my opinion.
Dr. Bowman?
I was gonna say, yeah, so we just would table it and then
Well,
get the information and then.
I think
go over
it's
to the next meeting.
perfectly fine to table it and look for more information.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the first time it's been brought up and.
and I can, I mean, I support,
Well,
I do support Joel.
We could start to work on what a contract might look
Yeah,
like
and I
too.
will start.
You know, there's no reason that we can't work on what it might look like.
I think it would mirror what the principles would be anyway, wouldn't it? Do you have that? We'll do the baseline, but
Comment, Dr. Dorado?
Yeah, but I mean, elementary school do some creative things, it's not hiring an assistant principal. Be okay if I investigated some of the ways they support principal or principals at the elementary, because they do some creative things that aren't so costly, but so we're kind of looking at this from a district perspective.
Yeah.
So not just for myself, I'm not gonna be here forever, but that's been the amount of time spent outside of what I really get paid for. And every week I am in my classroom covering for lunches. So it's different, and I don't want to take away from this at all, but maybe just broaden it some. I'll try to do some work, at least become part of the discussion.
Director Hackett? Could you
Director Lang.
please direct Dawn to get the numbers for us so that we feel more comfortable with whether or not we can hire? We need the numbers, Dawn, for whether or not we can hire someone in this position at an equitable pay schedule, right? That's what I'm asking.
yeah, but I don't think we're that far off from what this position, what this individual's making now. And after April 28th and our March numbers come in, I'll feel a lot more comfortable. And we will recover, and I think there is a need, I think there's a district need, I do support that. Just anybody who knows me know I get nervous when.
Well, no, I think you
Spend
should
money.
be directed by the board to get those numbers for the next meeting so that we can make a sound decision as far as finances are concerned. Because I think that we all agree the need is there. I mean, I don't think that's a question. But I do think we need, like Director Costa said, we have to be careful about the monies right now. I'm hoping that our illustrious governor will give us a little COVID money or whatever, but we'll see about that. You know, I don't know. So that's up in the air. We don't know what the monies are. And I really think as our business manager, you need to bring that forward so we all understand where it's coming from, if we can sustain the position. Because that's not, you know, it's not just today, it's for the next year or two, as Dr. Gravata has said, and he's right, you know.
It is right, and that's the point I was trying to make, it's not next year or the year after. Our numbers are driven by our open enrollment. I don't know from year to year what our numbers are.
That's right.
We aren't a static district that has 1,500 kids every year. We are one of these unique districts that are really governed by how much open enrollment we have. It's a great problem to have, But I can't come to you in 4 years and say, we're gonna have 1,200 children. It's
Right.
just not gonna happen. I don't know.
That just means that we have to keep on achieving too.
We have to what?
Keep on achieving when people want to
Yes.
come.
That's right, we
Yes,
have to be,
I agree.
yeah.
Keep on achieving.
So, point of order, I don't know what to do with this.
Well, I think table. it.
Table it,
Can we
yeah.
table it to next meeting?
Yeah.
All right.
When we get more
That's the problem.
information.
And I go back, that's what I said, sometimes we'll put motions in there. But that's there in case you decide to do that.
We need to take a motion on tabling it, or can I just table
I
it?
think the, last time I checked, the board chair
That's what I think, so I'm just making sure.
hit his gavel and say.
Yeah,
"Hey,
well, I ain't doing that. I'm just gonna table this until next meeting, okay? We're gonna go to 10F, reading specialist.
Yeah, I just handed you out, but I've talked about it in several other, preparations. I just gave you a handout that covers a lot of this. And, how do we increase literacy? It's a question that came to the last board. And again, this occurred when we're trying to figure out what to do with the, fund balance. Because, we came out ahead on it. And theirs was, let's put in the reading, let's focus on the early childhood. And with that said, you know, when do we dig down into the childhood? Where do we start with it? It's not that the teachers at the early levels aren't working with those kids, they certainly are, but sometimes I don't believe they have been trained into spotting things that cause dyslexia, for an example. And there are different ways which the board chairs, it could probably tell us more than I know about spotting it at a younger age. So how do we do that? The first thought was maybe if we train everybody, and Phil and I discussed that, and that might be a difficult thing. So the next thought Phil had was, let's get a halftime person in there. And if we start early, get them trained properly, where, yeah, we screen them all, but you miss some things. You don't catch everything. There are other ways to look at it. And the very things that are tagged to make somebody in dyslexia can also slow up the development of any early childhood. And if we can strengthen those pieces by using different means, we can progress faster. So what I'm proposing to you is to bring in a reading specialist, half-time, train them in identifying the early development and the, what can I say, the signs or the tip-offs if somebody is dyslexic. But if it's mildly so, that's a different thing. Let's work with it. We all know that everybody develops at a different rate physically. That's an outward side we can see. That explains why that kid is such a good athlete in 7th and 8th grade, and he never seems to get much better. Why? Everybody caught up to him, and why went by him. But internally, cognitively, that development's also there. And what's going on there? If we have somebody who can spot those things and start to work for them, we might be able to slow down that. Eventually, I could see that moving on and doing the same thing at a higher level, possibly even moving to dyslexic reading specialists throughout the district. But the idea is if we help these kids at an earlier level, they'll be farther ahead when they get to 3rd grade. We know this for almost all students. Once you're in 3rd grade, it's harder to move forward.
Director Lang.
Superintendent, does Mid-State provide reading specialists for the children with special needs? And if they do, why can't we tap into a resource we already have?
Special needs is a different category. The state has made that explicit.
Okay.
And at Mid-State, they're paid through special need dollars, not for, you know, here's a reading problem. We already do that when kids show special needs as young as third grade, we're working with them, and we have a special needs individual that works with them. For example, one of the things that impairs some of our students from being able to read is speech. We have speech therapists that help out with that.
I think a big part of this is there's a fair amount of our students that don't qualify for special needs, but yet aren't proficient. And so probably highly intelligent and are able to sneak their way through a lot of things. You know, and I think what happens is third, fourth, fifth grade, tell me if I'm wrong, Dr. Rabata, but everybody else's learning curve goes at such a fast rate, they just can't keep up at that time. And by then, you know, by the time we find them, then they're in such a hole that, you know, we can screen people, but if you take 2 or 3 hours to screen somebody, you're not necessarily going to catch. I mean, having somebody that would work with kids on a regular basis would be able to catch a lot of those things. And you know, maybe if we could just, you know, we could help half of those kids not end up with problems past third grade. I mean, you don't know what it's going to be. You don't know. It's one of those things. It's not going to be quantifiable. You know, that person might do more good. You know, the only way you're going to be able to tell is in 20 years when the kids come back and say, gee, when I was in second grade, that lady, she came in and she read with me every day and I learned how to read, you know, but they ain't gonna say it when they're 14, 15 or 16, you know? So.
Randy puts it really well, so that's very good. John has communicated to me that there's been board interest in some early intervention work for children who, despite regular instruction, are still struggling, either dyslexia or dyslexia-like symptoms, plainly having difficulty mastering letter sounds, vowel combinations. And then, really like a year and a half ago, unrelated to that, a teacher asked me, well, if there's ever an opportunity for a halftime reading support person, I'd really be interested. So the two kind of, when John talked about it again, I said, well, there might be a solution if we're interested in moving that direction with Mr. Petron, who has a really strong background in working with kids, and it's her interest with reading problems, and she was willing to get trained and support.
I think if we had big district savings, this is one of those things that you pay now and could see the savings 5, 6 years from now. You know, both in scores and in you know, in the amount of kids that we're spending time with in the later grades.
Are there any statistics, Randy, on that as far as how many children have really been impacted by? I know that you have, you know, dyslexia in the family.
Yeah.
And I know I had a son from Bolus, just got D's and Do's. His dad still talks that way. But he could not read in the 5th grade, could not. And so he acted out. Because that's what you do when you don't know what you're doing.
And that's just one of the things that happens, or they, you know, they start to resent school because they're just, why is it so hard for me? And it's not hard for somebody else.
See, I guess that's what I'm saying. Will a reading specialist be able to handle that? Or will this just be, you know, a little Band-Aid on a larger problem, which I don't quite know what the larger problem is. John, I'm sorry.
I would think that, sorry, John,
No,
I
that's
know
okay.
we've not collaborated a lot, but introducing a halftime person to this would just be sticking your toe in the pool to see what the temperature is.
But I'm thinking you started at
Yeah.
such a low level.
Yeah.
And if you can start to see it working, this is only what I see as a starting point. I'm on board with you in that what I see from this is number one, if it's effective, discipline problems are cut back. Learning is a goal.
Yeah.
And more importantly, we know that reading is one of the gateway into lifelong learning. Yeah, some people are kinesthetic learners. They have to do the thing to get it. But at least if they can read about it, it can give them a head start to move that way.
Dr. Bauman.
Just gonna ask the same question I did with the last one for the finance, as far as, I think you had said we had set money aside for one, I don't know if that covered 1 year of this, 2 years. I mean, I know we can always relook at it.
We
but-
have $107,000 set aside. So depending on,
The rough cost, or is that just?
no, we have 300 set aside.
Okay,
I mean, obviously, at some point, the roofs are gonna be more than that, but we do have capital dollars and LTF dollars. So, yeah,
I would think any project like this, you'd have to look at. Give it years.
what?
To be able to, if somebody wants. to-
Yeah, you're not gonna see the.
Yeah,
you're not
you
gonna
know,
see
you-
it.
But you're not gonna see the results right away.
No,
You know, and I can imagine any individual that gets into this, the training for themselves is going to be, you know, they're gonna get into it and find out, oh boy, I need to learn what this means,
Oh, yeah.
and just, you know, and just start to consume it. And Director Garrett.
That was gonna be my question. What types of things would be available to help train this person?
Yeah.
Are there, because I know it's somewhat of a challenge, right, with the state doesn't necessarily recognize it. So what is out there for some of that training?
well, excuse me, I can't remember if I told you the story or not, but Dr. Gravata is certainly aware of it. My granddaughter was diagnosed as a 4th grader to have dyslexia. She was reading below a kindergarten level in 4th grade. My daughter found a place, Claire to take her, and it happened to be for free. And they train people, but it's extensive training. That was my first thought. By the way, after 1 year, she came out reading at a comprehensive 10th grade level. Why? The pieces to the puzzle were put together for her. And as a 5th grader, she's reading at a 10th grade level. And I thought, wow, I was so excited at the time. We were up at the Source Mountain, and I said, Phil, you won't believe what happened. And we were already talking about this project. We can go to dyslexic teachers in the area. And Phil has found an online course out of Rochester, which he's asked the paras in the ECC and the teachers to go into and do the online course in it to give them a better understanding. But that's all part of it. It can't just be one person. It's got to be multiple persons. So if I tell you, and Randy, you're the one that tells me about art, you can identify it from art. Give an example of that, please.
Okay, so everybody thinks dyslexia is just turned around numbers and stuff. But we've all seen the kid that gets to the end of the paper and then just starts going down instead of going over. That's one thing. If they put their name on their art in the corner and it then tails off to the bottom more than just a couple letters, that's a really good sign. If they can color inside the lines, but you just learn what to look for. I've got 2 kids that one that's profoundly dyslexic. You just learn what to look for, and you can see it in their art. And it is because they're nonlinear thinkers, and that's it's something that almost should be celebrated because NASA, 50% of their people have to be tested as dyslexic for hiring. It's a hiring because when the rocket goes up and things go boom, they don't need everybody to say, well, I guess it's done. They need somebody to say, well, if you took that and you took this and you put it together, maybe you get back. That's part of it. And but that dyslexia is just one thing. Dysgraphia, you've got the autism spectrum, you've got them things are all tied together. And if we could just help these kids out and get some of them the help that they need so that reading is not a struggle by 3rd grade. By the time they're in 5th grade, we're not even going to know that they had help.
Partly, yes, your question was in Rochester, there is a Minnesota dyslexia reading center. And they certainly are focused on dyslexia, but it's even more than that. It's kids with a dyslexia or not have dyslexia-like characteristics or display efforts to help make progress, they're still not making progress. So they work on educating on specialized strategies and approaches that they've found to be successful for most students. So they and Sourcewell would also be a place where we would give support. So there are some support areas, and it's and a teacher who wants to learn, wants to do more with that. So it's not like we're going to cure dyslexia.
No.
It's going to be good support for students where often the issue seems to be hereditary neurological issues where it's just not clicking. And so how can we use different strategies to help them? I think that's the
Director Ari?
Yeah, just a couple of follow-up questions on the budget. Well, first, do we kind of have an idea of what our volume of kids that would utilize this type of program? You were saying it was pre-K to kindergarten, do we kind of, is it 10% of the students, 50%? I mean, what kind of numbers do we think would utilize this service?
I don't have like, all I have is the data that people say within a population, you're going to have 5–10% of the kids with the issue. And I think we want to intervene early, but we want to identify with one person, how far can we stretch this person based on the needs that we're identifying. So if we've solved all the problems with the early childhood center, we've got we have lots of room to expand. I'm not as worried
Well, that's,
about that, but it's things we'd have to discover.
that's part of the pilot program, is discovering what the need is. So
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, Director Ryan. It is, to me, it's not just for dyslexia. It's for kids that are struggling in the beginning, because the more you struggle, the farther behind you get. And sometimes when you work them harder, they also go backwards because they just want to have so much work in. We have to make it part of the regular curriculum eventually, and that's why I think in the long run, we have to train our early childhood teachers and parents what to look for, how to help those, because at that time, the stroke is very short and very quick. Where when they get to third grade, it's longer. When they get to fourth grade, it becomes exponentially larger. And Randy started to bring this up, but I don't know if he finished it. What we're finding with dyslexia, autistic kids, ADHD kids, is they start out behind, but that's where the cognitive part comes in. Most of those kids, because of how they think, end up ahead of everybody else IQ-wise. And that's what Randy was talking about with this. Can you imagine if they have the opportunity that they can read and love to read?
So the part of the budget I don't understand, so there's that money set aside. We'll do that, and then it's, I assume, successful, then what happens when that money runs out? How do they support this position that we've added?
That's another question for administration and school board, if they want to continue that out of our general fund. If we want to support grant writing, there are opportunities for that parameter of learning. It just has to be researched. We have enough, if it's a 0.5, we have enough for at least three years of an intervention service with a reading specialist at a 0.5 to 0.6. But at that point, then it's a decision that if we're seeing success, then it's a decision that administration and the board will have to sit down and see if it can be part of that curriculum and resources to be part of our general fund. Keep in mind that we do have a 0.5 halftime title coordinator over at the elementary. That's also another targeted service that first through it's an ECSA, it's a federal flow through grant that runs through the state of Minnesota. Federal government gives, based on reduced numbers, gives grant dollars to districts to do targeted services, which are catch-up services for reading and math. So we also do have that for first through, I think we go to 5th grade, Phil.
Yes.
So we have that right now. So we have right now seven title paras and a 0.5 title teacher. And then we also will potentially implement this reading specialist. So that is a future conversation. I think the conversation last year with the finance committee and the school board was to introduce it, get it started, implement it, and see if we can get some of our students that struggle with identifying dyslexia or some of those, it's not just dyslexia, any of those identifiable issues with reading and get them up to standard or more comprehensible nature, I believe.
Lieutenant Phelps.
Yeah, I'd also say, there's a saying out there that says, your actions are so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. In too many places, they say, hey, we're doing this program, and this program, and this program, look what we're doing. Can you imagine what's gonna happen in this district if our reading scores skyrocket? If our kids in 3rd grade can read at a 3rd grade level, when people start to find out that we are addressing dyslexia, because that is not required by the state of Minnesota right now. Can you imagine what the possibilities are for even being a bigger magnet than what we are now? Remember, 1/3 of our enrollment is from outside the district. And our fear is we've lost some of that, which Dawn has pointed out several times tonight. Our fear is we're not gonna get them back.
May not.
Last question for me. So I think it sounded like you already had an idea of somebody in mind. Does that mean we're gonna have to look for another teacher? How are you thinking you're gonna fill that?
Okay, so I'll take a step back a little bit, responding to a need the board expressed. So sometimes you gotta be careful, yes, we're gonna get it. But yes, if we move Cindy into that halftime position, that does open up that classroom. Now, right now, we have 4 sections of 5th grade. So you move it that way, but we also now have another teacher retiring. In a sense, what we're doing is moving that teacher who would have been extra for next year into the 1st or 4th high school. And the retirement is really replacing the retirement. So it's a way to hold on to the staff that we have. Rather than adding 2 teachers, we're just replacing the retirement, teachers, which we have. Anyway. So.
I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, so I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
Well, I just said I'd make the motion to approve the reading specialist.
All right.
Pre-K and kindergarten.
Just to clarify, this is at a 0.5 or 0.6 FTE.
Yep.
That's full-time. increment.
And also to clarify, in the future, there's times she could be working in 1st grade. So I don't want you to understand that.
Yes. So they may have to, this person may have to observe 1st and 2nd grade in order to know what to do as pre-K and K. You know, I get that. It's moved by Director Roaring and seconded by Director Bauman to approve the reading specialist for pre-K and kindergarten. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Will the superintendent call the roll?
Director Bauman.
Aye.
Director Garrett. Aye. Director Hackett.
Aye.
Director Hofstad. Aye. Director Lang.
Aye.
Director Roaring.
Aye.
Let the record reflect the motion is passed 6-0-0. Moving on to 10G, e-learning days.
Okay, I'm bringing this to your attention, although we just have to be prepared. We have teacher leadership meetings periodically, once a month, we try to have, and the e-learning days have been brought up. Excuse me. E-learning days, we might have to request that from the state with a plan. Right now, there's a bill out there that says you won't have to, because actually e-learning days are distance learning. The trouble is, there's a state statute that said if we want to do a snow day at distance or for some other reason, we have to have prior permission from the state, what do we call them? I want to call them superintendent, that's what they are, the state superintendent of schools. They had a MPE. The commissioner, I'm sorry. Well, tough habit to break after 36 years. Anyway, so I want to alert the board to that. We'd like to move forward with it. In case that motion doesn't go through, that we have to have. What they want to do is leave those days up to the discretion of the school boards in each district. As I brought up to our commissioner, I said, get it right, the commissioner of MDE is looking, we're already doing this. We're not experts by any means, but a lot better than where we were 2 years ago when we say, oh, okay, on this day, we're gonna do this, 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 and this. And sometimes it's reaching your bag of tricks, and this is what part of it is. Where what we've been doing here with distance learning, especially in the secondary, there's some discussion what to do at the elementary because it's a different can of worms. Is in the secondary, we'll just continue with the lesson. In the elementary, we'd have to put together a plan to be accepted.
It does emphasize the disparity of connectivity though. Is something that has to be addressed.
But this would be periodically.
I know,
Yeah.
but I mean, I'm guessing that's why it's in statute that way, is because of that, right?
And it's got to follow the curriculum and all that good stuff. That's what we're supposed to do.
So, did you want us to do anything, or is that? just-
No, I wanted to alert you to be prepared for it. To me, after what we've gone through, yeah, we should be pretty good at it. We should be able on a snow day. I think it's also, this is for me, but I'm not gonna be here. It's not a bad thing once in a while on a snow day to have a freaking snow day. Let the kids get away from it all. You know, that's not a bad thing.
Because Minnesota winter is long and dark. So, but, you know, this isn't just snow days, this is the roof leaks 1 week and we can't have the kids into school because of mold or something else, or, I mean, there's all kinds of lessons, and that's even part of this, when we get out of COVID, whenever that is. We really need to, probably the first thing we need to do is sit back and write down the things that we learned from it.
I love that idea.
All right, upcoming meeting schedule. I got Tuesday, May 11th, for policy meeting. Tuesday, May 11th, 11:30 for finance committee. And Monday, May 24th at 6 PM for the board meeting.
Point of order.
Yes.
That was tentative on the finance committee. Okay, depending on if we get our Mars report back in time.
Okay.
That is the problem, if we don't get it back in time. And I think you want to change it to a week later right now.
I think we should be good. The submission goes out April 28th. Last month it was late because the state had issues with their system. If the committee is able to meet that day, I am able and willing. If they're not, we can go a week later. Keep in mind, we will be fine tuning things now. May's gonna be, you're gonna see May 11th, and maybe that, well, I might be on the end of May, I do need to take a day or two off.
Please.
He thinks I get escalated towards the end of the week, I don't know why. But yeah, just so we're gonna start meeting a lot, so you guys are gonna start seeing a lot of numbers here.
Part two to that, I would like to suggest to you that on Monday, May 24th, we meet in person in the cafeteria. After what I saw from the school board meeting when we were interviewing the superintendents.
Yep.
The way the cafeteria is set up now, it's an automatic people are spread. We require masks. It allows you to be up on stage, talking down, you're well separated. That's always a concern for the spread. But that's up to you, the school board, if they want to meet in person or not.
I'd be in favor. Anybody else?
I'm good with that, but I'm gonna have to call into that one.
Oh.
Sure,
You're
you
gonna
could
be
do
gone.
that, you can call it,
Okay.
yeah.
We understand.
So when you say in person, are you just saying you're gonna switch it to there, or it's gonna be open?
Open to the
for
public.
In person, just like it was
That's
for
good.
the
I think it should be.
interviews.
Fine.
Yep. I'm
Well, I don't wear a
Yep.
mask, I should just-
The room we were meeting in, it's way too close.
Yeah.
All right. Any other meetings?
I'm good with that May 11th as well.
So we'll send out an invite to everybody. We'll have a finance meeting.
All right. Well, I've hit the bottom of the agenda, so I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Lang and seconded by Director Bauman to adjourn the meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, will the superintendent call the roll?
Director Bauman,
Aye.
Director Garrett,
Aye.
Director Hackett,
Aye.
Director Ofsted,
Aye.
Director Lang,
Aye.
Director Roaring.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0, meeting adjourned at 7:57.